Hello Year 4, welcome back. Oh my goodness, we've just found out in the previous chapter, the Weasel, the gang, they're in the theatre. Let's find out what Pip does. Chapter 37. The end of the play was greeted by wild applause. A line of actors stood at the front of the stage, bowing to the audience. All around the globe, people stood up cheering and whooping. They threw things into the air, hats and coins and apples and herrings, and even a little white kitten who had sneaked into the theatre during the play searching for food, a mistake that she would never make again. Up in the top gallery, the Weasel clapped his hands together 2 or 3 times, then stood up. He didn't like hanging around at the end of a performance. Followed by his party, he headed for the staircase. The rest of the audience was still enjoying the show, milking the applause. Robert Armin had started dancing a jig, so the Weasel knew he'd be able to get out quickly before the crowds blocked the exit. Cuthbert Burbage hated comedies. He was irritated by songs, bored by jokes and depressed by a happy ending. That was why he hadn't bothered watching The Blind Beggar of Bethnal Green. Cuthbert liked tragedies, 3 or 4 juicy murders. That was what he called a good afternoon at the theatre. Amputations were okay, torture was better, and there was always something to be said for a mother eating her own children, particularly in a pie. But during a comedy, Cuthbert waited by the door of the Globe, taking money from latecomers, and spent a useful couple of hours reading through his accounts book, checking for errors. When one of the stagehands, that new boy called Pip, emerged through the doorway, Cuthbert put down his leather-bound book and gave him a stern look. "And where do you think you're going?" "To fetch some beer," said Pip. "For Mr. Armin." Cuthbert nodded. He might have doubted one of the other boys, but Pip was a good lad. Cuthbert reached into his purse and pulled out a penny. "Buy one for me too, will you?" "Yes, Mr. Burbage," said Pip, pocketing the penny. "And you can keep the change." "Thank you, sir. Thank you very much." And at that moment, a piercing scream echoed from inside the Globe. "Oh, turnips," said Cuthbert. "What have they done now?" And he tucked his accounts book under his arm, stepped through the door and peered over the top of the crowd, trying to see what was happening. When Cuthbert's back was turned, Pip hurried towards the nearest group of trees and hid behind a large oak tree. He didn't have long to wait. Before the crowd started to leave the theatre, the Weasel and Pigface walked out of the Globe and strode into Southwark, heading towards London Bridge. Scar and Tooth stumbled after them. The 3 women hurried behind, picking up their skirts to avoid the thick mud. Pip followed at a safe distance, darting between trees and doorways, keeping in the shadows, never letting himself be seen and never losing sight of the Weasel. Listen up for the next chapter to find out if he catches up with him.